The year was 2489. Humanity had reached the stars, explored far planets, and built colonies across galaxies. But one rule was always followed: never go near Zarian 9. This planet was filled with strange energy, deadly creatures, and dark silence. Many explorers who went there never came back. It was called the Graveyard Planet by space travelers. Captain Rayan sat alone in his small space station on asteroid Vex 12. He was drinking cold synth coffee and staring at the empty space outside his window. It was just another quiet day until the alarm blared. His console flashed with red lights. Incoming distress signal, it read, but the origin shocked him. Zarian 9. The message was weak and broken. Only one word kept repeating again and again: child. 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 Rayan frowned. He replayed it 10 times, checked the code, scanned for errors. It was real. Someone or something on Zarian 9 was calling for help. He opened the Galactic rulebook. Do not engage with signals from forbidden zones. It said. He stared at that line for a full minute, then closed the book. I'm not leaving a child behind, Rayan said to himself. He powered up his ship, the Sparrow, and set course for the dead planet. As his ship entered Zarian 9's orbit, everything felt wrong. The sky was dark purple, clouds moved without wind, and strange pulses hit the radar. Rayan turned on his scanners. There was movement, small, fast, and low to the ground. His ship landed on a rocky surface covered in silver dust. The moment he stepped out, his suit's sensors beeped like crazy. Radiation was high. Oxygen was thin, but still possible for short walks. He held his plasma rifle tightly and moved forward. Everything was silent. No birds, no wind, no sound. Just his own footsteps and the soft humming of his suit. Then he saw it, a handprint in the dust, small child-sized, and next to it, strange symbols drawn into the ground. It looked like a star, a tear, and a human face. He knelt down, touched the symbols. Suddenly, a voice whispered inside his head, "Help me, before they find me." Rayan froze. The voice was not from the radio, not from his ship. It was directly inside his mind. "Who are you?" he whispered. No answer came. Then something darted past his Vizhuna shadow. Running fast, he chased it, dodging sharp rocks and glowing plants. He reached a clearing. And there, just for a second, he saw it, a small figure, no taller than a 6-year-old with gray-blue skin and glowing eyes. It looked straight at him, scared but curious. And then it vanished into the forest. Rayan raised his scanner and checked the footprints. 2 legs, humanoid, but light and quick. He followed them deeper into the alien jungle. The trees here were tall and twisted, their leaves shining like glass. Some plants moved as if breathing. Others whispered in unknown languages. He felt like eyes were watching him from all directions. Suddenly, his scanner beeped loud. Life form detected, but it wasn't the child. It was something bigger, meaner, and coming straight toward him. He hid behind a large rock and peeked out. A creature appeared, tall, black-scaled, with 4 eyes and long claws. It sniffed the ground where the child's footprints were. Then, it growled a sound that shook the trees and moved away. Rayan let out a breath. Whatever that creature was, it was hunting the child too. He now understood this wasn't just a rescue mission. It was a race. He checked his backpack and pulled out a beacon. He placed it on the ground to mark his location, and tapped a message into it. Found signs of child, not human, chased by unknown species. Continuing pursuit as he moved further. He found more drawings scratched into rocks. One showed a ship with a fire symbol. The next showed a small hand reaching toward a human figure. And then, another whisper entered his mind. Clearer this time. "They're close. Please, don't leave me." The voice was filled with fear and trust. Rayan clenched his fist. "I'm coming for you." "Little one," he said aloud. He didn't care what rules he broke. He didn't care what alien threats waited ahead. A child any child should not be left alone on a world like this, and if no one else would dare rescue them, then a human will. The trees whispered before they moved, not with wind, but with breath. Like the forest itself was alive. Captain Rayan stood at the edge of that forest, staring into the glowing shadows. Every instinct in his body told him to stop, turn around, and leave this cursed place. But the voice of the child still echoed in his mind. "Please, don't leave me." He stepped in, and the world changed. Light bent in strange ways. Sounds faded into silence, and even his heartbeat felt slow. The trees were tall, their bark smooth like metal and colored in shades of blue and green. Some had small orbs hanging from the branches, glowing softly like sleeping eyes. Rayan walked carefully, his boots making no sound on the strange, mossy ground. He followed the tiny footprints left by the child, but they would disappear, then appear again far ahead, as if the child was floating at times. A sudden rustling made him aim his plasma rifle, but nothing came, only leaves shifting and a distant pulse. Like a heartbeat inside the planet itself, he knelt beside a stone and found a strange drawing again. It showed the child, this time surrounded by tall monsters with claws. One of them had 4 eyes, just like the hunter he saw before. Rayan felt something cold on his neck. He turned quickly, weapon ready, but it was only a glowing plant that had lowered itself from a branch. Curious about him, the deeper he went, the more unnatural the forest became. Time felt slower, like he had been walking for hours, but his clock said only 20 minutes. His suit's oxygen levels were fine, but his mind felt heavy. It was as if the planet itself was pressing into his thoughts. Then he heard it, a soft laugh, like a child. Hiding behind a tree, he followed the sound, moving faster, dodging low branches and strange vines. He reached a small clearing and froze. In the center, there was a crashed alien pod, half buried in dirt and covered in vines. Its doors were broken, sparks still flickering near its control panel. Rain approached slowly, scanning the area. There were signs of battle burn marks, claw marks on the metal, and blood. But not red blood silver. He checked inside the pod. Empty seats, shattered glass, and a single child-sized safety harness. Torn apart. This was the child's ship, and someone or something had attacked it. He found a small object on the floor, a toy, simple and handmade, shaped like a bird. Rayan picked it up and turned it over, etched on the bottom, in shaky writing. Home. He closed his fist around it. The child had come from somewhere far away, maybe even created or transported here. And now they were alone in this deadly place. A sudden blast of wind pushed through the trees, and the forest went dark for a moment. Then a loud crack, the sound of a branch breaking, echoed behind him. He spun around, gun ready, breath sharp, from the trees. A shadow emerged. Not the child, it was one of the hunters, tall and skeletal, its mouth full of needle-like teeth. It hissed and took a step forward. Rayan fired. The plasma bolt hit the creature's shoulder, but it didn't fall. It screeched in pain, then vanished into the shadows. Rayan ran, heart pounding, the toy still clutched in his hand. He dove behind a rock and activated a short-range cloak field. Breathing heavy, he waited, but the forest had gone silent again. Then, once more, the voice came, not loud, not clear, but gentle. "You're close." Rayan looked up, eyes scanning the trees high above. Something moved, a small figure, leaping from branch to branch, fast and light. It paused for just a moment. Looking down at him, their eyes met. The child's eyes were not human, but in them, Rayan saw fear, hope, and something else, trust. Then, the child vanished again into the forest. But this time, Rayan knew he was being led, not chased. And so he followed, because if the forest was a nightmare, then the child was the light inside it, and no matter how deadly this place became, Rayan would find that child. Even if it meant walking into the darkest part of the world. Even if it meant becoming the thing the monsters feared. The scream didn't come from a throat, it came from the air itself. A soundless shriek that tore through Rayan's thoughts, made his blood run cold, and turned the forest darker. He dropped to one knee, grabbing his helmet, trying to block the signal. But the voice inside his head wasn't the child this time. It was something older, angrier, and full of hate. Then it stopped. The trees returned to stillness, but the forest no longer felt like it did before. Something had awakened. Rayan rose slowly, heart thumping hard. He looked at the spot where the child had last appeared. The branches were still moving slightly, as if touched by small hands, but the child was gone again. He turned on his pulse tracker, a device made to follow rare energy signatures. It flickered weakly, then picked up a strange signal coming from deep underground. Rayan followed it, pushing through thick vines and low-hanging roots. The air grew colder. Soon he reached a cliffside and saw a hidden cave entrance behind layers of overgrown plants inside. It was silent again, not peaceful, but dead. Bones lined the path, twisted and charred. Too many to count. Some looked alien, but others looked almost human. Rayan kept walking, flashlight moving side to side, until he found a hidden chamber lit by the glow of broken tech panels. There, in the center, was an old research station alien. In design, but human-modified, screens were shattered, data chips half-melted. But one console was still blinking. Rayan knelt and activated it. A recording played in static images, showing scientists, alien and human, working together. Then came the screams, the fire, and finally, the child, standing alone in the smoke. Rayan's face went cold. This wasn't just any child. It was created, a hybrid formed by merging DNA from different races including humans. A living experiment. Made by a secret council, then hidden away when things went wrong. Then he saw it on the wall behind the console, scratched in blood. The Cathar found us. They want the child. They want what it can become, the Cathar. That name was whispered in fear across galaxies. They were conquerors, destroyers, enemies of all intelligent life. Even the strongest alien races avoided them if they were after the child. Meant the child was powerful or dangerous or both. Rayan backed away from the console, eyes scanning the shadows. A low growl echoed through the chamber. He turned, weapon ready, but the sound faded, like it was never real. Then he saw movement. Behind a glass window, he ran to it and found a second room, sealed but cracked open. Inside was a drawing childlike, on the wall. It showed the child standing between two armies, one side dark and sharp, the other side glowing and bright. In the center, the child held something in its hand, a light, maybe a flame, maybe hope. Rayan touched the wall, his voice low. "What are you, little one?" Suddenly, a voice echoed behind him, not in his head, but real. "They made me, but I escaped." He turned and saw the child standing at the doorway. Eyes glowing softly, face calm but sad. It walked forward slowly, placing a hand on the console. The screens lit up again, showing warnings in dozens of languages. "They wanted to control my mind, my power," the child said. "But I ran, and now they hunt me." Before Rayan could speak, alarms blared. His ship's comlink activated, a mechanical voice shouting, "Unidentified Cathar vessel entering orbit, warning, extreme threat detected." Rayan grabbed the child's hand. "We're getting out of here," he said. The child nodded, eyes wide as they ran out of the cave, back into the cursed forest. Thunder rolled across the sky. The trees twisted away from the light above. as if afraid. In the distance, dark clouds began to form, and from within them, giant shapes moved. Slowly toward the surface, the Cathar had arrived, but this time, the child was not alone. A human had come, and humanity. No matter how small, no matter how outnumbered, fights for its own. Asterisk, the sky caught fire. Bright orange lines ripped across the clouds as the Cathar ship entered the atmosphere. It didn't land, it tore through the sky like a blade, roaring. Louder than thunder, the trees of the silent forest bent as if bowing in fear. Captain Rayan held the child close as the wind slammed into them. Dust, ash, and silver leaves flew around like knives. But Rayan kept moving. The child didn't cry. It simply held his hand tighter. They ran through the twisted trees, ducking under vines, leaping over roots that pulsed with light. The child knew the forest better than he did, guiding him through. Secret paths and hidden ways behind them. Strange machines began to land, dark pods with sharp legs and red lights. Cathar scouts, fast, silent, and deadly. Rayan's heart pounded. His ship was gone, destroyed back at the landing site. They had no vehicle, no comms, no backup, only each other. Do you know a way out? Rayan asked, breathless. The child pointed forward. There is a cave of wind, it said, beneath it, an old path. They reached a cliff's edge where the ground cracked open like a giant wound. Below, they saw a swirling tunnel of air hidden beneath hanging roots and blue fog. Without thinking, Rayan jumped. Pulling the child with him, they fell fast, the wind howling in their ears, then landed hard on soft moss above them. The red lights passed over the gap. The Cathar didn't see where they went. Not yet. Inside the cave, it was cold and damp. Walls pulsed with a faint green glow, like the veins of the planet itself. The child looked pale, shivering. Rayan wrapped his jacket around them. "We'll rest for 1 minute," he said. 1 minute only. He sat beside a glowing stone, breathing hard. The child looked at him with those glowing eyes. "You're not like the others," it said. "You didn't run away." Rayan gave a tired smile. "Humans don't leave kids behind," he replied. "Not on my watch." Suddenly, a sharp chirp echoed through the cave. A Cathar scout drone, spider-like, dropped from the ceiling, red eyes scanning. Rayan rolled forward, blasting it with his plasma gun. The shot missed, but the cave roof shook, sending rocks down on the drone, crushing it. The sound gave away their location. They had to move again, fast. They reached an old tunnel, metal walls covered in alien markings. An emergency rail system, rusted but intact. Rayan activated the old panel with a multi-tool spark. The lights flickered, then came alive. A small transport pod hummed and opened its doors. "Get in," Rayan said, shoving the child inside. He jumped in after them, slammed a button, and the pod took off, racing through the tunnel like a bullet behind them. The sounds of chasing claws and growls faded. For now, they were safe. The child leaned against him. Eyes heavy. "You protected me," it whispered. "Even though I'm not like you, you're more human than some people I've met," Rayan said quietly. "Doesn't matter where you're from." As the pod rushed through the dark tunnel, Rayan felt the weight of what they'd just escaped, but also what still lay ahead. This wasn't over, not even close. Because the Cathar didn't want the child dead, they wanted it alive, and that meant the child held something they feared, or something they needed. And Rayan, one stubborn, tired human, just became the biggest threat to them all. Asterisk stars fell in silence, high above the ruined planet. A hidden ship drifted in the shadows of Zaria 9's moon. No lights, no signals, no name, but its pilot was awake, watching the surface below through a cracked visor. His name was Tlin, an alien scavenger with 4 arms, a smooth, silver face, and a voice like broken glass. He had seen war, traded secrets, and survived places worse than death. But when he received a coded message from an old friend, Captain Rayan, his heart paused for the first time in years. "I need extraction," the message said. "Priority, child rescue." Tlin's eyes narrowed. There was only one reason Rayan would say those words. Something valuable, something dangerous, and maybe something worth more than both of them combined. Below, Rayan and the child reached the edge of the old tunnel system. The transport pod had stopped in a forgotten landing bay, deep underground. Rust covered the walls, but the air was clean, strangely calm, almost too calm. The child looked up, confused. "This place, it remembers me," it said. "I've been here before, but I was not free." Rayan activated his beacon and sent a silent ping. Tielin's ship responded with a green flash on his visor. 2 minutes, the display said. Help was coming. Finally, he looked at the child, who now sat on a broken crate, eyes glowing faintly. Their skin shimmered like starlight, pulsing gently with every heartbeat. It was strange, beautiful, and heartbreaking. A living miracle, born from war and science, now hunted by monsters. "I made a promise," Rayan said quietly, "and I'll keep it." The sound of engines echoed. From above, a hatch opened and a tall figure dropped downlin. Armed and armored. "You look older," he said, smirking with sharp teeth, "and you look like rust." Rayan replied. They laughed just for a second, then Tlin turned to the child. His eyes unreadable. "So this is it," he whispered. "Eh? The experiment everyone wants, dead or captured?" "Rescued," Rayan corrected, stepping forward. "I didn't come this far for someone to treat them like cargo," Tlin raised. "Both hands, of course," he said smoothly. "I'm only here to fly." But the child stared at him for a long moment. There is a lie inside him, they whispered. He is not all shadow, but he hides light under poison rayons. Grip tightened on his weapon. He had trusted Tlin once, years ago, in another war, but war changes people. And profit always spoke louder than loyalty in deep space. Still, they boarded the ship. Tlin guided them through narrow halls toward the control deck. The engines hummed to life, lifting off quietly, leaving the broken planet behind. Through the window, Rayan saw the Cathar ships circling like vultures, but not attacking. They were watching. Waiting. Suddenly, alarms screamed. The ship jerked and doors slammed shut. Locking Rayan inside the cockpit, Tlin turned, gun raised. "I'm sorry, old friend," he said coldly, "but you found something too valuable to let go." The child was trapped in the cargo bay, sealed behind energy fields. Tlin activated a call, beacon broadcasting to multiple buyers across the galaxy. "I have the asset," he said. "Let the bidding begin." Rayan slammed his fists against the door. "You betrayed me," he growled. "No," Tlin replied. "I chose survival." But then everything changed. The child, inside the glowing cage, closed their eyes. The ship began to shake, metal groaning, lights flickering. Tlin's face twisted in fear. "I didn't touch anything," he said, backing away. From the center of the energy field, a wave of light burst out. It passed through steel, through walls, through lies. Rayan's door unlocked. Tlin dropped to his knees, screaming, his weapons sparking. The child walked out of the bay, calm, eyes glowing like twin stars. "I will not be sold," they said. "I will not be caged." Again, Rayan stepped beside them, and in that moment, the human and the hybrid stood as one. Not as soldier and subject, but as family. The ship stabilized, quiet returned. Tlin crawled away, mumbling, "You don't know what's coming. You don't know what they are." Rayan looked down at him and said, "Then let them come, because now they wouldn't be running anymore." The stars had changed. Rayan could feel it not in his eyes, but in his bones. As if the galaxy had paused to watch one small ship floating in the silence, a ship no longer carrying cargo or secrets, but something far more dangerous: hope. The child stood at the window, face lit by the pale glow of a red sun. Rayan stood behind them, arms crossed, mind racing. After escaping Tlin-S betrayal, they now had one goal: survive long enough to warn the galaxy. The Cathar were not chasing the child for revenge. They were chasing what the child could awaken. "Your body is a vessel," the child had said softly earlier. "They made me with many voices, many powers, but the strongest one was yours, human." Rayan didn't understand it fully, but something in his heart already believed it. A silent alert blinked on the ship's console. A fleet of Cathar warships had entered nearby space, searching, spreading like a disease. And worse, his ship's stealth systems were failing. Too damaged from the last burst of energy, they needed a place to hide. But there was only one location nearby: Outpost Theta, a dead human facility from the early days of interstellar colonization. Long abandoned, lost to history, but now, "Their only chance, we're landing," Rayan said, hands flying over controls. The child didn't speak, but nodded. They trusted him now, not as a soldier, not as a pilot, but as their protector. The ship came down hard on the frozen surface of a dead moon. The outpost was broken, half buried under ice and sand, but still standing. Rayan led the way, plasma rifle ready, checking every dark corner inside. The lights still flickered. Old human messages still scrawled across dusty terminals. This place once held life, now it would hold something else: a final stand. While Rayan searched for power sources, the child stood before an old comms panel. They placed a hand over the rusted screen. A pulse of light passed through the wires. The outpost lit up like a heartbeat returning after death. "What did you do?" Rayan asked, surprised. "I asked it to wake," the child said, and it listened. Suddenly, outside, the sky turned black. The Cathar had found them. 3 hunter ships descended like knives. Silent and fast, troops dropped onto the surface. Claws ready, voices cold. Rayan stood at the entrance, gripping his rifle. "You need to run," he told the child. But they shook their head. "No," the child said, "I will not run again." The first wave of Cathar burst through the icy door. Rayan fired, his shots clean and quick. But they just kept coming. He was pushed back, bruised and bleeding. Then, behind him, a light grew. The child stepped forward, eyes shining with golden fire. They raised their hand, and the air cracked. A wave of force exploded from their palm, sending the Cathar flying back like shadows torn by light. The floor trembled. The machines in the outpost began to respond to the child. Lights moved in patterns. Old weapons powered up. Turrets reactivated. It was as if the child wasn't just in the building, they were becoming part of it. Rayan watched, breathless. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was evolution. The child looked back at him, tired but calm. "You protected me," they said. "Now I will protect you." Outside, more Cathar ships circled. But now the outpost glowed like a living weapon, ancient tech fused with new energy, commanded by the will of a being born from many, but guided by one human soul. Rayan whispered under his breath. They thought they made a weapon, but they made a guardian, and now the galaxy would see that sometimes the smallest spark creates the brightest flame. And the Cathar would learn what it meant to fear a child protected by a human. Some wars are loud, full of fire, steel, and screaming skies, but others begin in silence, with one question, one choice, and one moment where everything changes. Captain Rayan stood at the edge of the frozen outpost, armor cracked, face bloodied, but eyes still sharp. Beside him stood the child, calm, glowing, transformed. Not a weapon, Not a project, not a mistake, but something new, something impossible. Above them, the sky tore open. The Cathar flagship descended like a god made of black metal. Its engines hummed with energy that could erase cities. Its voice filled every speaker in the system, deep and cruel, deliver the child. It said, and you may live. Rayon didn't flinch. He looked at the child, and the child looked. At him, no one owns you, he said softly. Not them, not anyone. The child's voice answered the ship without moving their lips. I am not yours. The sky shook, missiles dropped. Plasma fire rained down, but the outpost, now awakened by the child's power, stood tall, shields held, weapons responded, guided by the child's thoughts. Every system spoke in harmony with the hybrid mind that now lived between circuits and memory and then light, a pulse not made by science, but by soul. The child stepped forward, hands raised. They weren't fighting to destroy. They were reaching out. The Cathar fleet paused. Their ships flickered, their weapons dimmed. Some pilots began to scream over the comes not from pain, but from something they had never known. Fear. The child wasn't a weapon. They were. Message. And the message was this: you cannot enslave what you do not understand. Back on Earth, the Galactic Council had intercepted the distress beacon. They watched the transmission in silence, a single human risking everything for a being no one else believed deserved saving. And now the question was asked, what do we do? One general said, destroy the child. Another said, capture and study. But one voice stood alone. An old woman, once a child of war herself, said, we protect them because he did. She pointed to Rayon, frozen on the screen. Bleeding, tired, unbroken. That is the best of us, she said. And if the child is following him, then we must too. The council voted. And humanity made its choice. 3 days later, a fleet arrived, not to destroy, but to escort. Rayon's outpost was surrounded not by enemies, but by allies. 4. The first time, the Cathar retreated, not because they were defeated in battle, but because they saw something that could not be controlled. A bond inside the ship bound for Earth. Rayon sat quietly, bandaged, armor removed. The child stood. At the window again, eyes full of stars. Where are we going? They asked home, Rayon said. The child tilted their head. What is home? Rayon thought for a moment. It's not a place. He said, it's a feeling, when someone chooses to stand beside you even when it's hard. It's where you're safe. It's where someone fights for you. The child smiled. Then you are my home. They said, and in that moment, the universe, full of war and wonder, felt just a little more human.